Here's our groundwork session with a horse named Frankie, and I want to discuss a little bit more about some techniques and what this particular horse is doing. Initially, she was a little bit more pushy on the ground and pretty spooky of some artificial objects, and I want to demonstrate how on the ground that this horse, we obtained her mind and we're able to really hone in the thinking side of her brain when introducing some objects. So initially, when I halter this horse, I immediately want to let her know that I'm the leader. That's when the relationship starts. So if she were to invade my space or bump into me, I do want to right away remind her that I am not something to bump into. I have a bubble. It's my arm's length. You can see here that I'm not letting her cuddle me. Cuddling is allowed for other times, small periods of time, maybe while grooming and tied, but not all the time. Cuddling, I try to inform my clients not to cuddle their horse. Cuddling is just the horse's excuse to jump into your lap, and we have to remind them every single second that we are the leader. And in this particular mare's case, she wanted to take leadership and take matters into her own hands, such as spook from objects or maybe go a certain direction she wanted to go. But all that takes is a very diligent handler to tell her that she is not allowed to take charge. And if a horse is allowed to take charge, they're allowed to do all of the horse behaviors they were born to do, such as buck, rear, bite, and kick. So we want to avoid that in the horse's general nature of things. And as a handler, we want to keep reminding them every single second, especially after a short period of time training, that you are the handler, you are the leader. Don't succumb to, oh, this is my horse, this is cute, I just haltered you, you're cuddling me, I want to cuddle you. Avoid that kind of mentality. That is reserved for one particular time, let's say 10 minutes after your ride, and you can reserve that time for cuddling, for really bonding in that manner. But in order to first bond with your horse, you have to become the leader. And that's what this is going to be about. So if I were to lead this mare, I want her behind me. I don't want her rushing forward. If she were to rush forward, that's my step one. We ask, tell, demand. That was my very abrupt reminder that I should not be run into. If this mare were to if she were to become completely oblivious to where I'm at, I would need to I would demand that in a stronger fashion. Let me demonstrate. So that's important because you have to set a high level of demand at times. Not every time, but I want to be able to move her feet and move her feet fast and allow her to respect me. That is the only way that I can get the top level of her mind under control. Moving her feet slow and fast, for example. Just a reminder, here we go. Nice and soft. My aids are, I might first walk and shorten that distance between me and her. That's my first initial. Breathe in, move just a little bit, increase the energy. She's going to move away from that energy. Secondly, here's some energy along with my body's energy. First, it comes from your body and your breath. Secondly, it comes from your aids. Lastly, demanding that energy is backing quickly like I did previously, and I might even have to whack her with this rope. That's my last, do what you have to do. If this mare were running me over, I would have to do what I had to do to get her out of my space and backing up. If she were to shoot forward, I need to do whatever it takes to back her up. And typically that's getting in front of her. Getting in front of her eye or in front of her shoulder. I don't want to be run over by this mare, but I have to get in front of her. If I were to wait and get too far behind, she's going to rush forward. If I were going to get behind her drive line and start asking her from back here, that's the driving force that causes her to go forward. If I get up here, that's the driving force ahead of her shoulder to back her up. I need both. I need the ask, tell, demand in both instances. So when I start to work with this mare and have her respect me, one of the first things I do is back her and forward. Go back, go forward, go back. So secondly, I want to teach this horse, or show this horse already knows how to move her feet left, right, forward, and backward. And I want to hone that into each body part, or each leg even. So I focus in and teach about moving the hindquarter, the rib cage, the shoulder, and bending the head and neck. So here I'm going to slide my hand down, bend the head, that's important with this horse later, bring it up to where the back is, where I can go into the hindquarter, stare across the hindquarter, the shoulders stay in one general area, and I turn loose with the hindquarter. The hindquarter disengages. The inside leg crosses over. This is important because in colt starting, it limbers up the bucking muscles. In older horses, it initially lets them know who's in control of their powerhouse. So that is also very important. This horse needs to bend. This horse, you need to slide your hand down, shorten up, and bring it to the back, because when you transfer this information to the under saddle techniques, it is important. So we pretend as if we are riding the horse from the ground. Again, my energy comes up, breathing in. My tail end of my rope can help this horse. But I ask for a few steps and stop and reward, and I can always go back and do more if this horse is wiggling, if she's pawing, if she can't stand somewhere. I need to come back to my groundwork and show her that I have control of her feet, left, right, forward, and backward. Once I start to really establish those things, they start to calm down in their mind. It's first get their feet, then get their mind. Once you establish leadership, they start to relax, relying on you as the leader. So that's why these steps are so very important. Next, it's moving the shoulder. Really, I want to pretend as if I'm in the saddle, give her an aid here and here. So really, if I'm in the saddle, I'm going to give her an open rein. Open rein here, but I have to get her to do something a little bit more involved. There we go. I need her to move forward with the shoulder. Not walk off forward, but this outside leg that I'm working needs to cross over and in front. She cannot do this or this. She has to cross over and in front. There, good enough. There we go. Now I ask for a step and stop, because that's what I want her to realize that I want. Horses realize that they've done a good job when you stop giving the aid. They don't learn from your aid, they learn from the stop of the stimulus. So it's important to stop and to have them think about what you want them to do. You might notice I'm standing here at her shoulder. I'm not in front of it. I'm not behind her girth line. I'm at her shoulder. And I might even come in like this. This adds, if I'm breathing, this adds some energy. There we go. Honing in your energy is important. Knowing where you're at in terms of where your energy is very important. So if your energy can go, breathe in, push out. In one motion, it's a very coordinated effort. Think about it first. Visualize, and then do. So next, I talk about the rib cage. So we mobilize the shoulder and the hindquarter. Now it's the rib cage. We have to put together what the horse knows about its shoulder and its rib cage, or shoulder and its hindquarter, before we do effectively what's a lunge. So I have to send her out, move her shoulder away from me. And now she's walking with her rib cage bent, because I can drive her forward. She bends her body like a banana or a half moon shape. And I have to make sure that she keeps her eye on me. This horse is notorious for looking and finding things outside of the circle to concentrate on. So I have to bring her nose in, drive her forward, bring her nose in, drive her forward, bring her nose in, drive her forward. But I'm releasing my pressure each and every step of the way. So she learns to stay bent like a half moon shape. That's very important. If this horse happens to look outside of the circle, we are no longer effectively bending the rib cage. The rib cage needs to be bent because it helps the horse later on in gait and body control. When we have body control, we have their mind, we have their feet. So this is very important for not only getting a sane horse, but it's important for getting a balanced horse in gait. So I'm going to send her out with my rope. I didn't have to do much, but notice I stepped into her shoulder, and now I will step around, not backwards, but around. It's okay, but if she trots, I notice she looked to the outside. So I have to take up more of the slack. I want her to bend. And in a halter, there, that's actually pretty good, so I'm going to stop. I don't have to go around in a million circles to get the point across of what I need this horse to be doing. I want her to look at me. She can walk, she can trot, but I need her to look at me. I need her to bend through her head and neck. That comes to this exercise, which is focusing on the bending portion and softening. If a horse is completely stiff, they're not going to be able to bend and soften throughout their head and neck. There we go. That's pretty good. I would like her to eventually come a little further than that, but since she came so soft and so willingly, I would take up the slack, she would move, I would give it back. I would take up the slack and build on the bend, give it back. So each time that you take up the slack and she moves, I want to reward her. I'm not going to reel her in like a fish. It's very important. And that can be worked on in between your other exercises. Now, I didn't bring that nose all the way to the shoulder, but she did it so willingly halfway. I can build on that later. So now that I have her mind, I might be able to bring in a different object. But notice, main important thing with this horse, if I kind of was like, are you going to be afraid of this? She's going to be afraid. I'm going to go, you're not going to be afraid of this. Look how good she is. She's deathly afraid of this blue tarp. But since we did more and we were like, you know what? You could spook away. But if you spook away, I'm going to help your feet. If she spooks away, I got to bring up my energy and move her feet. But it's a little bit different than just doing the groundwork the way I showed you moments earlier. This, if she were to spook away from this, I have to go with her and I have to run with her with the tarp. As long as she's backing up, she's not running me over. But I have to swish this on her until her feet stop. That activity is called finding the feet. She can find her feet because I have done enough work with the tarp. She knows that it's more work to have me run after her doing this than it is to just stop. She began using the thinking side of her brain. And I had begun to use that with all of the other different stimuli that would cause a horse to spook, to try to get this horse to realize it is a lot harder to move the feet that fast and get sweaty than it is just to find the feet, plant them, and think about this tarp is not killing them. So that is part of getting a horse to realize they have a brain and to start thinking about using it, is finding the feet.